This season so far has been a roller coaster with decks and the way that heroes have been working. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about my favorite deck that has no heroic cards in it. It does use the champion card, the Skeleton King, but I will say I have a couple variations of this deck, so stick around if you don't have some of the cards or evolutions for the first deck, because I'm going to show a couple other ones that you could also use. First things first, let's talk about the deck itself. The main components are the Evolution Skeleton Barrel, the Evolution Skeleton Army, and like I said, the Skeleton King. This is what the deck looks like in its entirety, besides obviously this, so we'll talk about this in a second. But we have Vines, Ice Spirit, Fire Spirit, we have the Suspicious Bush, which is probably one of the most underrated cards in the game in my opinion. It's so good, and a lot of people don't really have the right cards to counter it or overspend countering it. So it almost always gets value, I feel like. And then obviously Dark Goggins, the best card in the game, the most valuable card in my opinion. I love this card to death. My favorite card, second favorite card, Princess on top. But the one thing I will say, this Evolution Skeleton Army is a kind of core concept of this deck that I have been running in ranked. And if you go over to ranked, you'll see that I've been grinding the ladder. I made it all the way to Grand Champ, and my previous best was actually Master 3, a couple steps up. So you can tell I've been pushing with this specific deck, and I've been really loving it. It's a very nice bait, split lane pressure cycle type of deck. And the one thing that I really like is I have both evolutions for it. Now, if you don't have both evolutions for it, really the Skeleton Barrel is the key. You could run Dark Goggins, the evolution for that. You could run the Ice Spirit evolution if you really wanted to. But obviously, ideally, you have the Skeleton Barrel. And it's not 100%. You can actually get away without any evolutions. So if you don't have the evolutions for this, stick around until later in the video. I'm going to show you what that looks like with my second account that has no evolutions. But before we get to that, I want to talk about a couple other variations you could also run. Next variation we have is instead of the Suspicious Bush, we have Wall Breakers. If your Wall Breakers are a higher level or you're more comfortable using them, you could also run Wall Breakers and even Evo Wall Breakers if you had them. They did get a little bit of a nerf, so they aren't as amazing as they were last season, but they are still really good. The other variation I have is the Dark Prince instead of the Skeleton King. I was running this until I unlocked the Skeleton King on my second account. I prefer the Skeleton King. Obviously, it's a core component of the deck that I use in ranked. But if you're pushing trophies lower, the Dark Prince could be a really good option for you, especially if you have a higher level. And then finally, I have Arrows instead of Vines. Arrows does the same thing that Vines does besides the freeze effect. And the freeze effect, to be fair, I only use in some situations. It's not all situations that I need the Vines specifically for that freezing effect. So the arrows are actually really good for taking care of those really annoying troops like Bats, Princess, Dark Goggins, Firecracker, Minions, stuff like that. The arrows do the exact same thing as Vines, obviously. Actually, it has a bigger potential of taking out something like a Skarmy or a Minion Horde. So in that situation, it'd be really good. But the reason why I can run Vines is because of the spirits down here. This is really helpful when you're playing against spammy cards. So these are a couple different variations of this deck, and we're going to jump into a little bit of gameplay. Unfortunately, the big thing about this deck is how hard I've been having trying to level it up. If we actually jump over to rank and look at the deck, my Suspicious Bush is only level 12, so I've been using a potion to make sure that it's level 15 to use it in my deck. Otherwise, it's actually not a bad deck to level up in the thought process that 1, 2, 3 cards are common cards, 1, 2 cards are rare cards. So 5 of your cards, over half the deck, you can actually request from your clan. And then obviously you're going to have your epic cards in Vines and Skeleton Army, and then 1 champion card. So it's a little lower on the how many cards you need for the higher rarity of cards, which is nice. It's easy to get some of those cards, but obviously getting something like a champion card for the Skeleton King can be difficult, which is also why I gave you a variation with the Dark Prince. Now I'm going to jump into a classic 1v1 just to show off the deck and some of the different uses you can get out of this deck. And we'll talk about some of the different things that I try to do with it, just to give you guys some tips if you do want to try out this deck for yourself. So one of the big things is I always hope for a Skeleton Barrel or a Suspicious Bush off rip, because it's hard to defend, especially if you don't have a good starting hand for it. Especially like this is going to hit the tower, and then I'm going to drop Skeleton King to get the souls for that. So not only did I hit the tower, but because he's using little zappies, it also made it to the tower and got a couple hits. We're going to freeze these so it doesn't do too much damage. And actually, I placed that a little too early, but that's okay. And we can do this up top, and we're going to Suspicious Bush the other side. Again, a big part of this is the... that's actually really good. A big part of this is the split lane pressure. That's going to go in right there. We're going to do another Skeleton King in the back. And that's going to do a lot of good for me with getting souls. And it's going to completely defend against the Bar Barrel and the Goblin Cage. So this is another really good use case for this. My dog is scratching at my door. All right, we're going to just rotate this in the back probably. We're actually going to pop this to try to deal with the Zappies. And we can actually Dark Goggins right here to help deal with it. Again, there's certain use cases with the Skeleton King that can be a little difficult to have a good idea of when you should use it. But a lot of the time, using the Skeleton King ability is going to get you value just because of the fact that it spawns in so many skeletons when it's fully activated. So I really like that. Okay, we're going to go in on this side with the double skeleton barrel because he just used his arrows and because he just used royal recruits. So this is going to do a ton of damage, all things considered. It's going to make everything on that side weak, which is huge. And now we have the Skeleton King ability. We can drop this right here, and Dark Goggins is actually going to go right in the middle, and we're going to ability to keep this a little chaotic for me. We're going to do a Fire Spirit to help deal with the Royal Recruits. Royal Recruits will get a little bit of damage, but if you look at the top, that Skeleton King perfectly defended the other side. He's going to arrows that, which is fine. We'll take a little bit of damage here, but this is where vines come in really handy. So whatever he pops right here, I can just vines, and this is going to do a lot of damage for me. Even if he bar barrels last second, look at that tower, man. It's gone. It is absolutely gone. And Skeleton Army is huge for this point specifically. Whenever he has a bigger troop, whether it be a Golem, Elixir Golem, Royal Hogs like that, the Skeleton Army is so good at defending it. And now we can pop this, and he's probably just going to give up because it's pretty much GG's at this point. And just like that, you know, you're going to take a little bit of damage here and there, but all things considered, I mean, I didn't even get to the Evolution Skeleton Army. That's how good this deck can be. There are some great case scenarios and some great options you have. Now, that deck was, all things considered, I think I had a better matchup. So we'll play one more game just to really try to show off some of the different types of, you know, battles you can get into and different type of exchanges you can have. I think that in most case scenarios, it's not an easy deck to defend against. One thing I really like doing at the start too is if I have both of these cards, I like to do a barrel and then Suspicious Bush, because if they have a tower card, often what you'll see is they'll put that tower card one tile too far to the other side, and you can almost always get them to make a mistake with it and then get some damage put in there. Going up against Tornado is never fun with this deck, I will say, because it's such a valuable spell for a lot of the cards that you have. One thing I do like doing is splitting Skarmy in the back, and then I try to decide whichever way he defends to put down Skeleton King just to try to get all these souls, like I said. And we can even push this side a little bit with the Skeleton Barrel, actually, so that he can't place another troop with that Executioner. That's something, and he's going to Enya's ways, which is actually kind of fine because we can just Ice Spirit Dark Goggins. And now look at the other side. He's got a Zap, which is actually really nice for me because we're not only going to do this. Ooh, that's a good tornado use. Good tornado use. But we shouldn't take much damage from this. We can actually bait this out. Again, the spirits are so nice in this deck because of this point right here. You can almost always get good value with the spirits just by pulling the troops to re-lock them onto something else before it hits your tower. Ooh, this is not going to be fun. So we're going to spend a little bit of extra elixir defending this. Vines and Skarmy is going to almost completely take that out, which is super nice. It might get one hit just because he had Zap, which isn't ideal, but it might get two. Nope, we got one. Okay, perfect. So now we have a full Skeleton King, which I'm going to ability, and he's going to Executioner. Now, Executioner that he spawned right there would have been really nice to have Vines because I could have completely taken care of the Executioner, but look at the damage we're about to get on that tower. Even if he tornadoes late, it's still so much damage. And we can actually wait till this locks and then put down Dark Goggins. Perfect. So Dark Goggins will stay alive. It'll get a couple hits, but I'd rather keep my Dark Goggins alive, go for the tower, try to get some chip, or make him overplay his hand, which that is actually fine with me. We're going to get some hits on there. He probably will balloon right here, so we got to be careful. Yep, we're going to balloon, and we're going to do this and this before he can ability with the Knight. So that will almost completely take care of that. The tower is going to do the rest for me. We'll actually do this and this. Perfect. Now we can ability, and we're going to Skeleton King the other side to keep the pressure up. And look at that, man. How beautiful is that? Just some of the best interactions, let me tell you. Now he's paying attention to that, so we can do this as well. We could pop the ability just to, didn't pop in time. I was going to say we could pop the ability for some distractions. We're going to Vines this to take the tower entirely. That's perfect. And we can actually Fire Spirit. I like holding on. This is exactly why I like holding on to that. We're going to hold on to the Ice Spirit to distract. And we're going to Vines this. We'll Fire Spirit. And even if he was able to zap and do whatever, it's not going to be enough. Boom. That was a much closer battle, but you can see the type of interactions I'm talking about. And I didn't even really play that perfectly. I kind of played a little wishy-washy. Like, I definitely could have played it better, but all things considered, we took the win, and that's what matters. So it's a very much a deck that you're really hoping that your opponent makes mistakes. You're trying to force out mistakes from your opponent and capitalize off of them. So now we're going to jump over to my second account and look at a different variation of this deck. Alrighty, now let's look at this variation of the deck. It's the same thing, the same cards, but instead of having Evolution Skeleton Barrel and Skeleton Army, we have no evolutions. So we're going to be playing a game of Trophy Road. And the one thing I want you to look at is the different levels that I'm playing against. I will likely be playing against somebody with higher level cards than me of where I'm at in Trophy Road. We are the same level in Tower, which is super nice. He has a level 10 Golem, which is going to be not very fun. What we're going to do here, though, is we're going to actually pressure both sides. And we're going to do this. And we're going to get full souls almost off of the rip, which is going to be huge because I'm going to pop the Skeleton ability the moment I can. And right now. And we're going to completely trade towers. This is going to be perfect, and then we can Dark Goggins right here. And as long as we don't have, he doesn't have arrows or vines, this won't take my tower. Look at his main tower. I mean, that's just a mistake on his hand, to be fair. Yeah, that was insane. What a crazy start to the game. You gotta love that. We're going to put this down right here so it doesn't kill my Dark Goggins. We'll put Skeleton King right on the, that's Musketeer Heroic. We shouldn't have to do anything like that unless he, nope, he does an ability, so that's perfect. And the other side, the witch is about to die. We're going to actually just full send the main tower, go for a 3 crown here. Do this right here. And that will kill that, and my Dark Goggins is going to lock in, and that's going to be GG's. I mean, even at the lower levels with no evolutions, you can completely outplay the opponents you're playing. Obviously, he made a huge mistake playing Golem first play. You should never play a heavy card first play. But I mean, look at his deck. This deck is literally just the most mid-ladder menace type of deck you're going to see. A lot of level 11s, a lot of 10s, a level 12 witch. And I mean, my Fire Spirit is level 8. I mean, even with low level cards, this deck still does so much damage at a variety of different trophy ranges, which is why I would recommend using it, genuinely. I think it's a great deck. We got a little 2-star. Hold on. Pause. 3, 4. Hold on. This could be crazy. 280 Hog Riders. That's so funny. Anyways, point what I was saying is even with lower levels and no evolutions, this deck can still do a ton of damage. I highly recommend checking it out, trying it out. I think that even with the skeleton nerf that came in October, November, the skeletons are still pretty strong. I do think at some point they're probably going to nerf Skeleton Barrel a little bit, maybe just the death damage, but it's hard to really nerf the Skeleton Barrel a ton because unlike the Wall Breakers, Skeleton Barrel is easily countered with Tombstone, with a cannon. Even Dark Goggins at the top can completely counter the Skeleton Barrel, so it has a ton of different counters if you have the cards in your hand. And even if it hits your tower, you can still use Barb Barrel to completely wipe all of the skeletons off of your tower, so you might get a little bit of death damage, but you won't get any skeleton damage. So there's a lot of ways to defend against the Skeleton Barrel, which is something you'll realize as you play this deck, that you're kind of baiting out the log, the arrows, the Barb Barrel, the vines, whatever it might be, whatever your opponent has, a rage spell even, and then you're trying to use your other cards to get in and keep pushing that, and you're cycling them. And hopefully, obviously, you just overwhelm your opponent or force them to make mistakes. I mean, that's a big part of this deck, is forcing your opponent to make mistakes. So if you enjoyed the video, please let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. Drop them in the comment section down below. Hope you guys find some uses out of this. Again, it's a non-heroic deck, which I think is really important because I pulled the Heroic Giant. I'm never going to use that card. This account, crazy enough, I posted a short on my YouTube. I pulled Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A, which I thought that Clash Royale said the only way you could get Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A was through the Pass Royale. I don't have Pass Royale, you can see. I just have the normal pass. So how did I get Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A? I don't know. I thought you could only get one of these three. That was what they were making it seem. I guess it just glitched and gave me Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A, so I suppose. I don't know, but I have it. So there's that. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.